Larry Richard Unfiltered with Jim Krenn and our special guests, legendary concert promoter Rich Engler and Scott Mervis from the Post-Gazette. We were talking about Jimmy Roach, who was on DVE for years. And when I was in high school, he was on 4 to 8 in the afternoon originally, Jim, before he went to mornings. Did you listen to him?
Yeah.
And I used to love this guy.
And Jimmy and Steve also in the morning.
Me and my buddy Jeff, who's still in radio like me, does the same thing I do in Birmingham. I think you met my buddy Jeff years ago. We used to go in his room and turn on Jimmy and would hear, "Howdy, this is Jimmy Roach. Here's a mini concert, Def Leppard." And I'd go, wow.
Larry does
That's
the
what I
best
wanna do.
Jimmy Roach.
But we didn't know Jimmy was
I call
just...
him sometime he answers, says Jimmy Roach. He does. I love it. He does it.
I call Steve Hansen occasionally, who was eventually his morning show partner, and I call him and say, "Hey, Steve, it's Jimmy." He'll go, "Jimmy, oh, it's you."
He knows. He picks it up.
No, you just interviewed.
Let's get the band back together.
You just interviewed Jimmy?
I did. I was asking him about. I had to do a story on 9/11, like how it affected the music scene. I talked to Rich about it too, but I wanted to ask him about. You remember the Dixie Chicks and Toby Keith, and the Dixie Chicks got canceled off country
Right.
radio. So anyway, this story was about that.
Okay. He's a great guy. He's a legend. So
Really is.
This is our episode 3 at 23rd and Vine. We want to thank Bob Bazzelli. We want to thank Lou Caputo and Ray Sefcik for allowing us to be here on East Carson Street in the South Side. Have you ever been here before, Rich?
Never.
It's a cool space.
Very cool.
Bring Cindy.
I don't
You like
difficult
wine, don't
time
you?
Finding it now, I know where it is.
So we did a show on Anna Maria Island off the coast of Bradenton, and it was Donnie Aris and the Grassroots. By the way, Donnie kicked ass. He really
was
did.
word. That was
he
word, yeah.
started with the rapper, brought the crowd to its feet, and they never sat down for the
Right.
rest of his
It's
performance,
incredible.
right?
Right.
So after the show, this is kind of what I always wanted to do. Jimmy, you know this. This is the cool part of what we get to do. So we're with the band, we're with the promoter, we go to the hotel after, we're going to have a glass of wine, relax. This guy, Rich Engler, he's going to pop a champagne cork, right?
Yeah, I brought out a bottle of champagne for a celebration.
And he aims it at the docks where the boats are.
Right.
And he wants to bet everybody there.
So I go, boat or water, boat or water,
Okay.
boat or water, which means you have to vote.
Right.
Is that cork going to go in the boat or the water?
we didn't know what the hell he was
Well,
talking
what
about.
if
Well,
it put a
nobody
hole in the boat?
got it at first.
What did it go in? Did it go in the water or the boat?
It hit the boat and then bounced in the water.
Water wins.
Yeah.
Water wins. You know, it's funny having these guys here. I can't the history and all the stuff you guys been through, and I know, talking to both of you, some of the crazy stories, but some of the eccentric personalities that these rock performers have that I've learned too through many of them, just odd, interesting people. You know, they do. Some of them are the partiers that they portray to be. Some aren't. Rich, you told me Guns N' Roses with Axl and how wild that concert was. And I know Scott has. I'd like to hear who your craziest, most eccentric guy was or girl.
Well, this is totally Rich's domain because he actually has to deal with them. I'm on the other
interview
side,
side,
of it.
but still,
on
there's
the
some
interview
eccentric.
side. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, the Guns N' Roses obviously went down in history in Time Magazine or Newsweek as one of the top backstage parties of all time. He was paying, by the way. He came to me early on and said at lunch table, nobody around. I was having lunch late, and he sat down. And he goes, "Hey, Rich, how you doing?" I go, "Great."
This is Axl Rose.
Axl Rose. I go, "Good, Axl. What's going on with you?" He goes, "You know, it's my birthday." So
You didn't
I had
know.
No clue whether it was or it wasn't.
Yeah.
He had a good lead in. Okay, so he goes, "What about a party?" I said, "For you?" He goes, "Of course." He said, "How about a Greek orgy?" I said, "I've never been to a Greek orgy." I said, "What's it like?" He goes, togas, no clothes underneath, party, games, people in jacuzzis.
Now we have to put a warning on the podcast.
Oh, it's unfiltered.
Oh, it's unfiltered.
Yeah, you do it.
unfiltered.
It's good.
Go
Go ahead.
ahead.
We're good. Yeah, we're in.
So I go, okay, I think we can do this. I said, it's going to cost some money. So he reaches in his pocket and hands me like $5,000 cash. He goes, "That's 5,000 cash. How's that?" I go, "That's a good start." I said, he goes, "Well, how much you think it's going to cost?" I go, "Well, I don't know." I said, "You want a great Greek orgy? I'm going to do it upright, and it's going to be fantastic." He goes, "Let me get my accountant." So he yells over, has the accountant. He goes, "Give him another $5,000. So the accountant goes, "What's going on? Where's this money going?" I go, "To a Greek orgy later on." So I call all my catering people and runners and every single person that was available. And I go, "Okay, you're going to Rhode Eye Road and get those statues that go." So we're going to put that in and have champagne coming out of their mouth. And then, those ones that pee, we're going to have wine coming out of there.
It's a Greek orgy, yeah.
Yeah, so they have to get forklifts to get these
So you had
statues.
experience having done this before.
Now,
You knew exactly what to do, where to get the
no,
stuff.
Imagination,
I'm
it was
pretty
good, right? That's a good call. Statues.
I'm pretty quick on my feet.
Yeah, you are.
That's, so I that's what I thought. So I sent somebody down to the strip district, and I said, "Get 20 boxes of grapes. And go to Shoren's next door, and we're gonna get netting and put it on the ceiling and put the grapes so they hang down, and so it looks like a vineyard. And then they'll yank that shit down at the end and roll around it. And that's a Greek orgy, I'm thinking. All good.
I think so, right?
So
that's good.
So we get it.
Yes.
All going. Somebody went over to Liberty Avenue and got some girls
There's the orgy.
in the jacuzzi. Yes, you could imagine. And then show was over. Great show. Then it was time for the party. So everybody's in there partying, but no Axl, no band. So all of a sudden we hear, boom, 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 boom. One's coming like this with a bass drum, dressed like a slave, but a Greek slave, and the roadies are coming with palms and fanning Axl, who's being held in a basket. They're bringing him in.
Oh my God.
They're bringing him in. And then we had a pig on the spit. They had the pig coming next with some more roadies coming in. So it was like,
Where was this?
it's just at Three Rivers Stadium.
Oh, at the stadium.
Yeah, so
When
I
they
read.
came with Metallica.
Right.
Was that in the Steelers' locker room?
Well, I don't know who the opening act was on that.
And it rained that day?
Yeah, I
Rain
think
during
it did.
Metallica
Yeah,
set.
I
I think
did.
Guns N' Roses only played Three Rivers the one time.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. So I had talked the Steelers into taking their all their weights out of the weight room, and that's where we
For
had
Greek
it.
orgy. They must have
because
loved that.
there was already a jacuzzi
Wholesome.
and there was already a cold tub in there, so we had a big head start.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Good point.
once Axl came in, all hell broke loose. It was absolutely bedlam. I didn't want my wife I made my wife Cindy sit in the car, and I said, once he's here, I'm going to leave. So.
3 hours later.
No. I stayed for about 20 minutes more, and it was just like getting wild. Oh, and we had a special fog machine, ice, that only goes up to about here, because when you use dry ice, it doesn't rise. It stays about waist high,
Good to
which
know.
was perfect for this situation. So they're starting to pull the grapes down already. So as the story goes, it was quite a party. After the next day, the next year, and several years after, the Steelers were so upset with me they could never get rid of the fruit flies in the weight room, because all their juice went down in every crack. It was wild.
Who stayed to chaperone this event?
What's that?
Who stayed to chaperone this event after you left? Ed Traversary?
I don't know if Ed stayed. Ed may have stayed the whole
Eddie
time.
T
I don't
locked the
know.
door.
AT?
Dick, were you there then?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely, Scott.
So yeah, my people stayed there, and I guess they partied.
Well, you know, coincidentally, after that Greek orgy, that's when their things started to go downhill.
Exactly.
Because of the weight room.
I
Exactly.
think.
Well, that's I love
Yeah.
those stories. And like you said, Scott, Larry and I were talking about interviewing people, and we won't say it was. You got one worded. When you get one worded or whatever, you don't get anything out of them. You had to run into people. You're like, oh, it's going to be great. And all of a sudden, they're like, he's killing me. They're killing me here.
Yeah.
Not difficult.
I had plenty of those, but like not the big people. It was usually some of the smaller people.
That think
coming
they're
up.
big.
I have a list.
Yeah?
I have a list. I don't need to name.
I knew
the
you
names,
had a
but
list.
The list of people I don't ever want to talk again on the phone with.
They were that rough.
Yeah. But
I know.
I mean, mostly I remember some of the great ones, and like, I was thinking the other, like recently about Stevie Nicks.
Okay.
She's thought to be like a diva, a prima donna, a queen, and she was just like one of the sweetest, most down to earth people I ever interviewed, and we
Wow.
just have this long, extended conversation. She's asking me about my kids, and it's like, what is going on here? Like, how
This
is this
isn't-
woman?
It's like,
You know,
yeah,
you
you're
don't
right.
expect her to be that way, right?
Yeah, I mean that'd be
Yeah.
one of those out of body where you're looking at yourself going, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
I remember it. I went to Clarion University, and Jay Giles was there. So we were part of the radio station and the newspaper, school paper. They let us interview Peter Wolf after the show.
Oh, he's great.
And this girl with the newspaper, Julie, I won't reveal her last name. She says this is when the, bands were doing really outrageous stuff, but they were at that point already established. And she goes, "Why don't you guys throw up on stage and stuff like that?" And Peter Wolf, he had his sunglasses on. He goes, "What? Why don't you throw up on stage? Make a big, He goes, "What kind of flipped out chick are you, man?" And then the manager came over and said, "This interview is over." We all looked at Julie. "Really, Julie? Really? You ruined our big interview with Jay Giles, Peter Wolf."
My big rock roll moment was the one when Bruce, it was with Joe at Nick's Fat City, and I was downstairs, and he walked over, and I thought, this is like one of those surreal moments. He's going to say something, I'll carry on forever, and I'll just pass it along. And I just looked at him. He just looked at me and goes, "Hey, man, where's the crapper?" I remember there. Thanks. That was it.
I sat with Bruce and Joe on a tour bus outside the Stone Pony one night.
Cool.
And it was one of those pinch yourself.
Yes.
It was just the three of us.
What did you talk about?
We just
Remember?
talked about the show that just happened, and because they had just played together at the Stone Pony, and that's when Springsteen was he was guesting with him when they did the album together, late '90s.
He acted
American
like
Babylon.
he acted like a guest, didn't he? Like he wasn't
Yeah.
didn't take the spotlight or anything from Joe. He acted as support, right?
Yeah. Well, at the Nick's Fat City show, he was like the guitarist.
Right.
So
He was-
is
Yeah.
Springsteen as nice and down to
He
earth
is.
as he
He
appears
is.
to
I
be?
took him to dinner the first time. His first big show was at the Syria Moss. Whenever he just Born to Run was just coming
Yeah.
out. He wasn't quite on time in Newsweek. He was like 2 weeks later. It was going to. He was on time in Newsweek. I took him up. Cindy and I took him up with the Columbia record guy up to Carmassie's, who's now closed. So I called Carmassie's. I said, "Hey, I'm bringing a guest up." I said, "We need to get in. Don't close." He goes, "Well, if the door's locked, knock on the door. I'll let you in." I said, "Yeah, we'll be in there about 20 minutes." So we get up there, knock at the door. He comes out. He looks out. He sees the four of us. And he goes, "Rich." So I go in. I go, "Yeah." I said, "The four of us are here." He goes, "Yes," but he said, "We still have a pretty big crowd in here. You three can get in, but the one that looks like Jesus, I don't think he can come in."
Oh my God.
So I go, "That's Bruce Springsteen." He goes, "Who?" I said, "Bruce Springsteen." He goes, "I never heard of him." I go,
God.
"Probably, a lot of people have not yet, but." I said, whenever he does, whenever you please let him in, keep his place setting, put it in a drawer, and just wait. He said, "You're so full of shit. Bring him in." So we ate. Bruce ordered corn on the cob and apple pie.
Huh.
Like, what else would Bruce order, right? And we had a great time. And
This is like
and
the
he
story,
never kept the place setting.
This is like the story when Meatloaf came into the Decade.
Okay.
I think Cyndi Lauper was there that night, and they were sort of like on the same label or something, and they're all hanging out in the kitchen before the show, and like house rockers are there, and so Dom comes in. He wants everybody out of the kitchen, everybody out of here, like it was like the band and stuff,
Right.
And they go, "Well, Dom, this is Meatloaf," and he goes, "I don't care if it's fettuccine Alfredo, get him out of here." And I love that. I love that story.
Well, I
I love
gotta.
that story, but every time I hear it, the dish changes. Sometimes it's chicken cacciatore.
That's so funny.
That's
man.
funny because check this out.
That's a good one.
All-Star game in Pittsburgh. Pirates are hosting
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, and they orchestrate a celebrity home run derby. So they got Dan Marino, Tony Danza, Ken Burns, the documentarian. Meatloaf was one.
Meatloaf, yeah.
And Jack Lambert, Steeler great, right? So there's a group of people standing there milling around, and Meatloaf turns out to be a big Lambert fan. So he goes, "Is that Jack Lambert?" And my buddy says, "Yeah." He goes, "I got to meet him." He walks up, he goes, "Jack, Meatloaf." Jack goes, "Mashed potatoes."
Get out.
Meatloaf didn't know what to
name,
do.
Yeah.
What did he do?
He just
Stared
went,
at him.
"Boo."
It's Jack's
He just shrugged.
When I was at IUP, my buddy Rod Schwartz, he was my roommate, and he was,
Wow.
you know, Rod.
Yeah.
He's my
from
roommate.
11th hour.
Yes,
and,
11th
oh,
hour
yeah.
music
You guys were
aficionado.
roommate? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it's roommate at IUP. So Rod plays this EP or whatever for U2, right? And he goes, "Hey man, I'm driving down to me and a couple buddies. We're gonna go to the Decade to watch a band called U2." And I listen to it and I go, hour later, "I'm not going, Rod. They're not going anywhere." Like a year later, where some war came, I'm like, "Who's that band?"
A year later, they were at the stage.
That's
you
the band
guys-
you said wouldn't make. What?
Well, they
Did
went
you
to
ever
the
meet
Bolton
U2?
Brothers, which is the
Yeah,
bio.
Bono
I,
and those
I
guys?
had them at Three River Stadium. It was their biggest flop tour ever. It was called the Pop Tour.
Oh,
And,
that one,
Right,
yeah.
whenever they thought that we better change and put a little bit of disco in our music.
Right.
And they did, and nobody was buying it.
We're bringing all Rich's nightmares back
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Why do you have to bring this
I'm
stuff
sorry,
up?
I just
Yeah.
asked.
Sorry, man.
What else
Anybody
can
have
we
any
think of?
Tums?
You know, getting back to that Springsteen, was that the night that the woman who ran the mosque kicked him off the stage?
That
'cause
wasn't
he was,
the night, but there was another
Oh
one.
yeah, because
where
he
Bruce-
played too long. She's like, "Get this guy off the stage
Yeah,
already."
well, she
she
ran
came
out.
out on the stage. She walked out. The
Yeah.
woman who ran this
Dick-
older woman that
Dick,
ran
our
the mosque.
producer today was there that night.
Oh, you were
It was-
there.
It was an epic.
She was like, "Excuse me, sir, you're gonna have to quit playing."
Young man,
no,
young man.
To who?
You
my God.
must quit. And Bruce goes, "Oh,
Bruce.
And he ended. He actually ended.
Bruce was afraid.
Yeah, it's like this
Yeah,
is my
he got
mom
afraid.
or something.
And he for years said, "Is this at this gig? Is that old woman?" like I'm
Something
out
about it.
again.
I'd be afraid too, right? Authority, man.
That's
You know,
true.
The
I
grades
mean,
goes
you know,
back to
I'm
grade school.
surprised he has the nerve to do like long shows after that. He,
Yeah,
like,
I
he would
know.
have PTSD from that moment.
He
like,
probably pictures
like,
that
I'm
lady.
only playing 2 hours. I'm not going 2.5.
Young
Well, I do
man.
want to ask you guys about your best show experiences. It's Larry Richard Unfiltered with Jim Crenn, Episode 3. We're at 23rd and Vine here on East Carson Street, South Side. Scott Mervis is with us, the great critic from the Post-Gazette, legendary concert promoter, Rich Engler. And we want to hear about the documentary coming up.